Welcome here, Airangani and Kamini. Thank you so much for coming here today to speak with me. You started Rukrakaganno for almost 42 years ago. You were pioneers in talking about environmental protection and understanding the great need to protect our environment in Sri Lanka, and you've done so much over the years to protect our forests and our trees in our country. What made you start something like this, Airangani?
Eighties, I think, were the final sort of thing that gave a real push was the logging of the one and only rainforest to make plywood, and we couldn't get people to stop it because the Canadians had already started logging it and so on. Then, so that's one of the reasons why. And we also found that the forest department was, when they are replanting, they brought species that are foreign from Australia and various places. And we protested about that, why not do the indigenous species and so on, because the foreign species are no use to any other wild thing. So that's one of the reasons why we really got this
right.
going, yes.
Well, actually my subject was zoology at university.
Right.
And then and botany, so I was sort of a bit animal conscious at that time. And but I couldn't get a job in that field. So I had to, and I went into coconut. Actually, after I retired, that I got working with Rukrakaganno, hardwood. They had already started and they were going on. So once I retired and went back to my first love, as it were. And then mainly, if you want to protect animals, you have to protect their habitat. So forests were primary in a way. So that's why we sort of kept on. One thing is, they had started and people started appreciating trees, but the forests were going, as you know, from 1956 to now, we are only now having about 20% forests. And somebody said the other day that 4%, we are losing 4% every year. So that's a huge thing. So our idea was to make people conscious and also have projects which protected forests. So we got together with the women and had a few projects also, and we had this newsletter and got them to kind of appreciate organic farming, that sort of thing. And now you have a number of women's organizations, and women were quite strong in that, I must say. So that was another thing that we tried to do.
I remember Rukrakaganno as a child, and I used to hear a lot about the work that Rukrakaganno used to do, how when there were instances of forest destruction or trees being destroyed, how, as a team you all used to run there and protect the area, and so many times we were very successful in stopping it and saving a lot of what we see today. But as you know, the destruction is continuing and probably at a much larger scale than it was before. So what do you think is important for us to do, and an important message for people to hear on protecting our environment for the future of Sri Lanka? Airangani.
Well, as I said, I think a lot of it is through ignorance. Because I think the village people especially work so closely with nature that they know that they have to have water, the earth has to be good and the vegetation. So they have to work for that. But what is happening now is that money is becoming so important that they are also, when they're looking at the trees, when they look at the tree, they say, "Vataram kiyak tiyanoda." That means how big is the tree, and when you cut it, how much you will get. This is very sad. So now what we are trying to do is to, send this message of conservation into the villages, especially, and through the schools. And I think the women are important because they deal so much with nature. In the morning they get up, the water. They have to find the water. It's the women always who carry the water. For what reason I don't know, but anyway, it's always the woman who is carrying a pot of water and bringing it. Then she has to manage the soil if she wants to plant anything. And then she has to find food. Leaves. There are so many leaves in this country. Really, we're a really blessed country.
So what do you think each of us can do? Obviously, we know the environment is critical for our survival, even though a lot of people may not see it now, and things have changed in how we see it. We just see it, like you said, directly more as money, and we don't see the long-term issue with what's going to happen.
What is happening is it's a thing with the development. No? They want to have development, then you have to get it, cut some forest or something to put your tourist lodge or whatever that. So that is very difficult because people want to get rich. That is a human feeling, and if they can, they don't care. They'll cut the forests. So what we, like organizations like us, are trying is to stop that and prevent it, and to declare areas, actually the forest areas that are now there should be declared as protected areas, because without those forests you won't have your water also. So then I think as individuals we should also try to do a little bit, because some people, a lot of people go and enjoy the environment, like they go to Yala, they'll go to Udavalve, they'll go somewhere else where it is beautiful. But if you sort of say, well, can you join or make a donation or anything, that they don't think that that's important. But some of those places now, like Singaraja, a lot of it is there because so many people protested and then went to the president, who at that time, and managed to save it. So people should be aware and should try to voice that. If you just remain silent also, it doesn't help. Some voice, either write to the papers or inform some. If you know, maybe you don't want to join an organization, right? They don't want to join. But
individually
individually just
you can do a lot.
Make a noise whenever that something like that happens. Now the other day somebody phoned me and said, they cut that some lovely tree at opposite that hospital. Our city, no? So, but of course by the time he said it had already been cut. Apparently, they didn't see it being cut. So when you see things like that, maybe you should make a noise. I think that's the only way to, if you have sufficient sort of opposition, sometimes they listen.
I think you made a point where you said that that the greatest impact by cutting down the forest will be our water.
Yes.
And I think we are in that time now where we're living in a time where we're having a critical issue with the lack of water in in a large portion of the country, people are struggling without water. Over 1 million people are suffering without water. And again, like you said, it is mostly, obviously everyone suffers, but a huge percentage of the suffering is borne by the women, because every day in the morning their struggle is to find this water for their family. And they have to walk miles, they have to take 3-wheelers and spend money, and they have to buy water. So it is a real issue, and it is only individually that each one can speak out and try to change and understand the importance of the environment. So on this day of International Women's Day, what is your message to these women who are struggling, or women who don't feel it yet? That there's obviously both sides in the country today. So what is your message to the women of Sri Lanka?
That they must make themselves aware of these things and know that you're in Colombo and you may be able to get water off the tap, but there are loads of women who have to go miles to get water sometimes. And if also other people if they're involved in development, you have to be conscious of whether you are destroying the environment, or try to make it as least as possible, or to make up in some way for that by planting somewhere else, and not simply want to clear and do that and make your own profit. And women can, who are, not necessarily the women in the rural areas, but women like cities and things who have more better lifestyles, they should be aware of this, and also tell menfolk and carry this message. If you are doing development, think about the water situation. But the forests, are you going to mess up the water? Lots of people who need water.
So, Rangini, what's your message to the women of Sri Lanka?
Yeah. Well, what I think is that many people in Sri Lanka, I don't know, the rest of the world also I think, don't realize the interconnections and interrelationships and interdependencies of all things in nature. They think that if you cut a tree, some people think that only you lose the shade. That's important for them. Because I remember I went somewhere, there's a lovely tree, and I used to go there very often. One day when I went there was no tree. And I asked the man in the boutique, I said, "My God, what happened to the tree?" He said, "Then hari elivela then api diunui." Diunu, you see. So that light is progress. And I didn't know what to say. I just couldn't think of what to say. What I think is that we have to educate people. And I think we have to start in the schools itself to show the interconnections. If you cut a tree, what does a tree do really? They think that it gives shade, and they can sell it and make furniture. Then while it's alive, then they think it can protect the soil. Some people know that it protects the soil. But they don't know that every single leaf gives you your life. That is, they don't know the relationships between the gases and the leaves, and the energy of the sun. Now, we can't do without the energy of the sun. We can't live. And we can get it only through the leaves. You can't go and stand in the sunlight and get the energy of the sun. No way. So those things have to be taught to people. That every single leaf, actually we should worship every single leaf. Here we just, we don't care to. Things like that, I think we have to tell them and show them that, my God, everything in nature is connected, and is connected to us. It is my life. If they die, we die too. I think it's very important that that message should be taken. Schools, the schools can do it. If the children get to know, the children are really convinced about that and can be taught very well, they will take it home and they will tell their fathers, why are you cutting that tree? Or,